started?
Yeah.
Started.
All
Okay.
right. Say,
So we're going to call this meeting to open this meeting, and this program is being audio and video recorded. So this is the first recreation meeting that we've had recorded, and I think we've had some discussion about it, both formally and informally, and we thought that the people in town that obviously use the programs and know members of this commission might actually benefit, as well as the commission members, from actually having these meetings viewed by a wider audience. They've always been open meetings, but I think I can count on my hands on one hand, the number of times we've had people actually come other than field allocation meetings. So I think we're ready to go. So we have everybody here. I know the vouchers are here, and we can sign those either before the meeting or after the meeting, so we can sort of do our business at hand and stick to the agenda. So everybody has a copy of the agenda. And so there are some meeting minutes that we need to review. And the first meeting minutes we need to review are from September 8th. Everybody should have a copy of the September 8th meeting minutes. The people that were present at that meeting and that can vote are Tom, Todd, Liza, Kevin, and Ann. I was not present, so I can't vote. So.
I don't vote.
And you don't vote. So I know that there were a number of discussions similar to what other groups and commissions in town by email in terms of getting the minutes correct. And I know Kevin had some comments that he shared with Todd, and I'm not sure if anyone else has, but does anyone have any questions or comments about the September 8th meeting minutes?
I do not.
Okay. So I think we need a motion to accept the meeting minutes as they're written.
I'll make a motion to accept my minutes.
Anyone want a
Second.
Second. All those in favor
Aye.
of accepting the September 8th meeting minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4 ayes. Okay. I apologize. I have new progressive lenses. So things are kind of, I'm getting this sort of trailing thing.
I've been there. It
Okay.
takes a minute.
I'm really close to just getting rid of them, because
you quite like them.
I haven't
love
tripped down the
them.
stairs yet. People say I'm going to trip down the stairs.
You have to look down.
Yeah. Okay, so the second set of meeting minutes are the June 9th meeting minutes. The same, we actually had, at that meeting minutes, it was Tom, myself, Todd, and we also had Liza and Kevin as their first meetings. Does anyone have any comments on the June 9th meeting minutes?
Just a correction on my last name.
Oh. How did we get that wrong? Okay, yep, change the A to an I.
Aye.
And other than that, so we'll correct that, and that'll be so noted, and I'll correct that.
You can accept with that
And accept
correction.
with that noted correction. Can we have a second to accept these meeting minutes?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So, the next piece of business is to talk about tennis courts, and I'm going to turn that over to Ann.
Okay. So Pat Sneed, who's from the advisory board, is coming at 7:30 to talk about the financing of the, getting the tennis courts fixed, but if there are any...
Want to wait? Would you like to wait till she gets here, or he?
Sure, we can do that if you want
Would
to.
that be better for folks to?
We just have to, so that's fine.
I think that might be.
We have about 15 minutes
good.
dedicated
Okay.
to it, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think we can get through some other things, so, okay.
Okay.
Ann, would you like to talk about a proposal and some of the thoughts you had in terms of security lights at Pond Street. Having been recently to a couple of other recreation facilities, I was actually surprised by how many of them are actually sort of fully lit at night. And we've got a fairly nice, well, quite a nice structure in the middle that's essentially dimly lit or quite, well,
No
I'm being
lighting.
nice.
It's
Or
not-
it's not lit
pitch
at all.
black.
It's pitch
The
black,
light-
so.
The flagpole is lit. but
Yeah, the
that's it.
flagpole is lit.
So
So,
the good
go
news
ahead.
is, we do have electricity into the site. So that's a big deal. So we do have electricity into the site. We also have electricity that currently runs to the pavilion. We do not have lighting in the pavilion. So this would have come after the tennis court vandalism, but, so we're discussing this because a very good deterrent to vandalism is having a light come on. So we were talking about having a motion detector or a photo cell that would keep the light on during the night. So what I have done, I spoke to Peter Diamond, he's the assistant electrical inspector in town, and just to get some ideas and some guidance about finding lights and such. And he led me, he gave me a list of some lights that would be a possibility. I have in your packet, there is a quote that I got. They're commercial lights. They're 39 watt. They're LED lights. So from there, I spoke to Lee Previtt, and he also gave me a quote. He's an electrician.
Okay.
Does a fair amount of work in town, who gave me a quote for installation. And this is an installation of 2 lights, 2 motion detectors that they have also that are protected with polycarbonate shield and and they will be mounted under a cage.
So,
So-
sorry, just so people know kind of what you had in mind before we
Yeah.
discuss it more widely, where would it be
So,
over at Pond Street?
So each one of the lights and the cage, under the cage, would be on each end of the pavilion. One shooting out, and the lights are not, the pavilion's set back a fair amount, but it would definitely cast a good amount of light. So it would be facing out, and then also on the other end, facing toward the tennis courts.
Okay.
And it would encompass some of the basketball court.
Okay.
And so if someone was approaching in the middle, when it was very dark, it would come on. Now, if they came up across a field, it would not come on. But as soon as they got into, on 180 degrees in line with either the front or the back of the pavilion, it would come on. Yeah, there would be ways to get around it, but if you got anywhere near that area, the lights would come on.
But nothing to the sides?
No,
Okay,
nothing to the side.
okay.
So that's what I quoted. This isn't cast in stone. I was just really trying to get some ideas and try to figure out how we could get some funding. I did speak to Scott Bragdon, who's the Human Resources, and he also does, contracts and grants for the town. And he did say there may be grant money available through our insurance company. So he would, once I give him the quotes, to move forward, he would be able to, he would apply for a grant and be able to tell us. He said, probably within a month or so. They would just have to have their next meeting, the insurance, the people issuing the grant.
Said Scott Bragdon?
Scott Bragdon.
So, and it says about $700, that's for the lights?
Yes, so.
Only.
Yes, so originally when I was speaking to Peter Diamond, I wasn't thinking about 2 lights, I was thinking about 1 light, but then talking to the electricians and thinking more about it, would be, yes, nice to have a light on the tennis courts, but it would be nice to deter people before they got there.
Right.
We've been very fortunate with vandalism, or lack of vandalism, but the people that took the spray paint to the tennis courts really didn't miss much. So, and I think it's kind of a lot of peace of mind if you hear something, and it will help the police as well if they see, if there's a light on.
Is there anything else? before we discuss it?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so I did have a question. Why don't we discuss it first, and I'll ask my question, because it's not about lighting the pavilion, it's about lighting other parts of Pond Street,
Okay.
or having some degree of security over other parts of Pond Street, because as you had said in the past, the fields are not insured. So if somebody...
They're not insured now. They are looking into
Okay,
getting them insured.
so that's a separate, so we don't need to discuss that
Yeah.
now, okay. So does anybody have, thoughts about having lights, floodlights, to add a bit of, add deterrent to anyone that would like to vandalize or visit Pond Street at times where it's not open?
I'm for it.
Good idea, bad idea?
I like the
You like the
idea.
idea, but you want to revise revise 2 lights into something different? You don't have enough information?
Oh, we got one quote, but
We got one quote.
I did, I did get a verbal quote on lights similar to that, but they were more expensive. They were about $400 each, but that was a verbal quote. And then I did talk to
Okay.
I did talk to Lee Previtt about what size light as far as the wattage and such. And the other light I had gotten a quote for was also a RAB light, which is both Lee and Peter said were good commercial lights and would last a long time. And the light that I had higher wattage, Lee felt that we didn't have enough height on the pavilion for it to really do, he said he didn't feel that you really get the effect of the higher wattage because it's lower and you would be shooting down to the ground. So,
Okay. Todd?
and is this the lights themselves? They don't require a long time to light up? Or
No.
do they require warm-up?
No, they're LED lights, they come on
Okay.
quickly.
Do we really think that the vandalism that was caused at the tennis courts and at the Willow Bay Park was during the nighttime?
Yeah,
Or,
Well,
I mean, because kids are normally, when they're after school, that's when they kind of hang around because they need rides to get to the tennis courts and the park, so do you think that this is like an added to the, prevention as far as, do you think really people that come to the park vandalize it at nighttime?
I would only be guessing, because I don't know exactly when the vandalism took place, but there are a lot of people it probably happened on a Thursday, and the park was pretty busy that Thursday afternoon, so kids could have been there with a can of spray paint, but I think if any adult saw them, or anyone was around, I mean, it was on it was a full soccer schedule right up until the evening, so I think
Right.
there's a
It
very
was
good
on-
chance.
When was it? It was on September 5th that it was reported to the police.
Right, so it happened the 4th.
Oh, okay, well, whatever.
So it happened the 4th.
Whatever
so-
that day was, I'm not sure
Thursday.
what it was.
So it was
a
report-
Thursday.
Yep.
So, but do you think kids really at nighttime vandalize that?
Yeah.
You do?
Well, just,
Do you think kids that couldn't get rides to the park, or that drove up there and,
I think that we've been very fortunate over the years with vandalism, or the little amount, but we have had vandalism over the years, and it has typically been at night. We had a few years ago, some break-ins at the sheds at Freeman Kennedy, and I'm looking at you because I can't remember maybe if you remember how many years ago, but it was always at night. I mean, football would leave, and then it would happen, the next day, so, before the next day. So, although no one was there, no one saw it, no one knew exactly what time it was, that vandalism was was at dark.
so what you're saying is really these are teenagers, right, that have cars that can drive there and then vandalize it
I
in
don't
the
think
dark?
she's saying that
I'm
at
not,
all.
I'm saying I don't know. I don't know.
What time?
I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
saying what I'm I really don't know. I don't know exactly what time it was, but if, I know the vandalism occurred on that Thursday. I know it wasn't there in the early afternoon, but it was there the next day. So I think, the chances of kids taking out spray paint, while people are around it's probably less. There's much less of a chance than when the sun
Well, you
goes
did
down.
put a nice note on the tennis courts there, apologizing for the spray painting and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want 5-year-olds learning how to spell those words
Well,
on
they
our.
wouldn't be there. The 5-year-olds wouldn't be on the tennis courts, but
Well, actually, they go and play during soccer when sometimes the parents go up. That's what made me do it, is because parents will take the younger kids while the older kids are playing soccer. You're right, they're not playing tennis, but they could be on there just walking around, and sometimes people cut through to Field C, so I just didn't want to take it. And even for older people, just wanted
can't
people to
wait
know.
to see Pat, because I think he's going to have some good wisdom as far as moving forward with repairing the courts.
In terms of this, so do we think that, are your questions all?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So,
I think there've been a lot of people, they say that in order to deter vandalism, if you
Yeah, so-
put a light on,
well, that's what I'm
a light's
getting
a good
at. So, based on Ann's presentation and the discussion, I think that there would be some value in having them lit. I don't think we know when the vandalism took place, because none of us were there, but I think that your assertion that certainly if I was vandalizing something and the lights came on, that might change your approach to vandalism. So I think do we have so in terms of this amount,
Yeah,
what,
the police did some nice, when I talked with Officer Eric Van Ness on actually September 12th, he said that the Norfolk Police was doing some nice patrols around that area. So I applaud the Norfolk Police for the patrols on that move thereafter.
thank you. So, and this quote, this is for the lights only, or?
This is for the lights, and then the second page.
Is
It's
the total
expensive.
amount.
Yeah, it is expensive. I
So
didn't add
it's
it up.
17, it's about 1,800 total.
Oh, no, it's, no.
Then plus the lights.
It's,
am I-
no, 15,
What am I-
16, 13, 14. It's
Light
about
fixtures.
2,500.
Light
So
fixtures,
that's-
okay. So plus what's on the front page.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about
so I apologize.
$2,500. I'm hoping that the insurance grant money will cover it. Got my fingers crossed.
Okay. So ideally,
Any idea on time frame with the grant?
Well, once we submit it, he said it would just depend when their meeting had been, so it would be about, he felt within a month.
Right.
and the grant would be for some portion, or he has?
He would
does have
ask
a
for all of
sense?
it.
He would ask for all of it. Okay. Could we, perhaps what we could, do we know when they're meeting next?
I don't know.
Okay. So we could actually take this in a couple of steps. We could actually, we could make a motion to support going to the insurance company for the grant, and then for the balance, because the work I don't think the work is immediate.
No, unless they meet next week.
Yeah, and whatever the difference is, or if they don't support any of it, we could just vote to have the work done then. Unless someone has a different proposal.
I mean, if they vote, just for argument's sake, I mean, if the insurance board meets and they vote yes,
Yeah.
and it's next week or the week after,
Yeah.
and we get the okay,
Yeah.
and we get the okay, can I move forward? I guess that's the first question. And then-
That was my idea, is to
Okay.
say, we would be, I think our vote would be is to support not only the proposal for the lights and everything to be installed, but also to have him to go to the insurance company for that grant.
Okay.
If it's denied or only some portion, then we could vote to, or have the voucher for the additional amount to be paid for.
Okay,
Does
so
that
at the
make
next
sense?
meeting, yep.
Does-
We'll talk about the status of it.
Or would people like to do it in a different way?
It's fine with me.
Yours is.
Sounds good to me,
fine.
Ken.
Okay, so we need a motion to support the...
I don't know that, since you're not paying for it, I don't know.
Okay,
that just-
that's fine
I
then.
think,
Okay,
if
so I
I'm
think it's a
letting
great
you know.
idea, so we don't need a
Okay.
motion to do anything. So we're all supportive of
Okay.
that, and hopefully, so maybe what you
Definitely
can do
okay to
is
move
either
forward.
let all of us know or let me know when that group is going to meet again. And
Okay.
hopefully it's...
I'll submit it to
maybe they
Scott
can- Maybe
tomorrow.
they can meet ad hoc or something, or sooner.
I don't know how it
rather than
works.
later, so. Okay. Okay, the next item is capital items requested for the Springtown meeting.
Right, this is more something to think about. So at the department head meeting, Jack Hathaway, town administrator, had asked that any capital items be submitted for the spring town meeting. So that means that they need to be thought about, start thinking about them now. Any capital items are typically, over $5,000 or, not anything we have money for. I think the first thing that would come to mind, and we had talked about this before, but it's been a while, is this, some sort of security system. We have the lights. In order to have a security system at Pond Street, we would have to build a small room, a ventilated room. That would be part of the pavilion. So it would be a locked, ventilated room. I mean, the nice thing is that for our summer programs, it would be great to have a locked, ventilated room, so I could actually have a refrigerator and freezer and things for kids, but that's not wouldn't be the primary purpose. At Freeman Kennedy, we would be able to use, hopefully, the shed, one of the sheds there, and have a locked system there. But it would also have to be ventilated.
Okay.
So that's just something to think about. You can let me know if you want me to, I was actually going to get some pricing on that, but it's not anything that's pressing, but these are things to think about, so come back with that list. Oh, there's Mr. Sneed.
Okay.
So if you want to stop there and go
Yep,
back up to the tennis
We're going to stop there
courts.
and go back up to Pat Sneed, who is our advisory board representative, who's going to talk a little bit about the financing issues in terms of the tennis court. Do you need a
on.
microphone at all, or?
No,
No.
we were just moving along. That's fine, come on up. So I'll just give a quick scenario.
Please do.
So the tennis courts, unfortunately, were spray painted extensively about a month ago, maybe a little more than that. And in order to really get rid of the spray paint, the courts need to be cleaned and repainted, resurfaced. Tennis courts are the one court that probably the lines make most of the difference. So I did get a couple of quotes and looked into other, possibilities such as power washing and things, but it really comes down to the fact that the courts will need to be repainted. So I thought I would get another quote to maybe get a lower price, and it came in about $3,000 higher. So, so that it's right around $94.50. And we did, with this, we did find out that the paved surfaces and flat surfaces are not covered by insurance. So we have a $5,000 deductible usually on our insurance, but it's not applicable to tennis courts. So Mr. Sneed is here to talk about how we can finance the repair.
Yes, my involvement in this started with the request that the advisory committee got for $10,000 as an emergency measure from the fund that the advisory committee has for as the money of last resort when there's no budget for other things. I spoke to Jack Hathaway about it at the time, and given that it's early in the year, we concluded that it was best to leave the advisory committee money untouched at this point, but that as free cash is in good shape, that we would do a transfer at the upcoming town meeting from free cash to your budget so that you would have the money necessary to cover this when the actual fix happened, which I gathered from our conversation is going to be now you're planning mostly in the spring.
Right, it's really too late to do the
Yeah.
repair now. We would need to make a 10% deposit just to hold our spot, but that's it, and
Yeah, so there was never really any question about funding it particularly. I mean, we all knew it was something that had to be done, but we just felt that at this point, with the winter coming up, not knowing what snow and ice might be,
Right.
not knowing what else might come up in the year, that we leave our fund alone, and that free cash is sufficient for the moment, and then we'd have that fund available later in the year for whatever else may arise, I should say.
well, hopefully we won't have to ask for this again.
Let's hope
Thank
not.
you, yeah.
But-
First time in 15 years.
But if by some misfortune it does happen to, or something else happens that affects the recreation department, then, those funds would be available for whatever emergency at that time. But for now, free cash is sufficient to cover your needs.
I think we probably should add, just so people know, we have not asked for any additional money to support the Pond Street fields that I remember of at all. Tom, I'm looking at Tom.
Yeah, I've been on the advisory committee 7 or 8 years, and I don't recall anything,
No.
certainly not of this nature happening before.
No, and keep our fingers crossed it continues.
I should mention that I have talked to Mr. Hathaway about this, and he, at the point of our discussion, we agreed that this would be the best approach. This does have to be voted at town meeting. I've never seen town meeting turn down a transfer, so I don't think there's any issue whatsoever here, but all of this is subject to the normal process of getting it in the transfer, having town meeting vote in favor of it, and so forth. So it's not 100% guaranteed at this point, but there's really no reason to expect that there should be any difficulties.
Great.
Questions?
No?
Kevin, do you have any questions? I think you were.
Nope.
Right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Pat.
All your,
And have a good night. all.
thanks.
Night. Does anyone have any other questions about the tennis court vandalism? Just,
No, I think you had suggested that there might be some prep work that needed to be
Oh.
done before the winter to sort of protect the
so I
surface.
did get back and I asked, I said, because it was getting later in the fall and all of a sudden, it didn't rain for 6 or 7 weeks and now it's raining. So it is getting late and it just makes sense at this point. People aren't going to be on the courts as much. So I asked, does it make sense, if you power wash the courts, they'll take the paint off, or at least loosen it up, and it will take the graffiti off, plus it'll loosen what's underneath. And I was, Hinding Tennis is the company that we'll be using, and they said actually not to power wash is better, but instead to paint over it with just a latex house paint. The downside of that, if there's a lot of it, it makes it slippery. I actually did use a latex house paint to sort of to lessen the impact of the offensive graffiti. So if we wanted to do more, we could use latex house paint and cover it up. I mean, it certainly wouldn't look good, but it would cover up the graffiti. And, it was kind of surprised when I saw that, but it does make sense because paint is a protective coating. So rather than having water get into the cracks of the asphalt or the surface, it will be a winter without that. So if someone wants to roll some paint on the court, they can. We can go and look. I wouldn't pay anyone to do it, but,
Told you, I have my daughter.
yeah. Yeah, it would be fun. Wouldn't matter what it looked like. Get some dark green paint.
Yeah. Okay. I think if the company who's going to do the work is recommending it, it's,
Just said if we want to cover up the
Yeah,
graffiti,
that's fine.
do that rather than power
That's fine.
wash.
okay. I don't think we need to make any vote or anything on that, so.
Okay.
So in terms of the transfer, we don't really need to do anything at this point. That's
I
going
mean,
to be up
if you want to take a vote just to see if everyone's in agreement with it and move forward, then that's fine. I don't know if, I actually don't know if it'll be transferred to our budget or DPW budget, because we don't have a budget per se, other than, excuse me, there's a bug. We don't have an expense budget.
Right.
Recreation is an
So
expense budget.
we would really be voting to support the advisories committee
Yes,
movement of the
request
request
for
to
the transfer.
the transfer. So would anybody like to make a motion to support the advisory committee's request for transfer from the free cash to either the DPW, I guess the DPW, as Ann said, because.
It may be, I'm not sure.
So, well,
If
so-
they open up a line item for
Yeah.
recreation, which they could, I think, I don't
Okay.
know, I don't know where they're going to transfer to. But it would be to,
ultimately
the
for to
tennis
fix
courts.
fix the tennis courts. So would somebody like to make that motion? Or should I restate the motion?
I make that motion.
We need a second.
I second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Kevin, did you vote?
No, I'm going to abstain.
Okay. So we have 4 yes votes and 1 abstain. Kevin abstained. Okay. There was a request there was some field damage that had happened that Ann had identified, I believe, in the August meeting, right? We're talking about the men's softball use closed fields.
oh, yeah.
That was during the August meeting, I believe. Yes, I believe so.
Yes, because it was the field
Yeah,
allocation
the
meeting.
field allocation meeting. And in your packet, there is a town of Norfolk schedule for payments from the.
It's a deposit advice.
The deposit that demonstrates the fees that were sent to recreation from those that had used the field in sort of breach of the field use policy.
So was the Emmanuel Baptist Church? Or?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is the amount that was deposited. I think that you had requested to see that, Kevin.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's
I
evidence.
wasn't aware who had the men's softball game there, but that's great.
Okay. Ann, could you give a gazebo update? There were some
Can.
repairs and some sprucing up of that structure that we had provided some funds to and had some folks in town, as well as the DPW that was going to do some work, or Bob Bullock that was going to do some work. You know how I get these townspeople
know,
confused.
it's okay.
But if you can just give us an update on where things are.
Sure. So we had agreed and voted to have Charlie Hewitt take down some of the railings that had rotted. The gazebo railings had rotted, especially in the front part. And when I say front part, I mean the part that's facing the town hill, the larger portion of the town hill, where the back part would be facing the tramp house. So we've looked at this a few times, and originally, when I say that, I mean Bob Bullock and I have gone over and looked at it. So the railings in the front were actually so bad that there was one that was missing, and there was just totally rotted and soft boards underneath. So if someone had kicked about another 3 or 4, they, even not hard, they would have come right out. So those have been removed. The front part has been removed. Originally, when we had talked about this, I had talked about keeping the back part, and there was some discussion about whether they should be taken down or how it would look and things like that. So what we did was just took the front part down to see how it looked. And there's not a lot of, so there are about 4 sections of the railing in the back left, and they're in good shape. Charlie felt that he could secure them. They would still need to be painted. And the top of that railing would need to be sanded and stained, and then, because was some old graffiti there. But the benefit, if we took all the railings down, the gazebo would be within building code, and that's what Bob had looked at. But sometimes we have large bands in the KP band, so we thought that maybe we should just take one step at a time and see if we kept the back railings, how that worked out. And you can always take them off later if we need to. Much easier to take them off than to add them back in. So, and the back is a little bit higher, although still within building code to not have it. But the front railings have been taken off, and I think, and Bob Bullock is going to have it painted. I think he's just waiting for to get quotes now on the painting. I will add that the electricity, I did find out on Friday, I tested the electricity in the front of the gazebo, and it does not work. Electricity in the back works.
I'm not fixing it. I'm not fixing it.
So I'm going to just let Bob know that. I haven't done that yet. Actually, he had to leave today, so I wasn't able to talk to him.
Questions or comments?
Actually, I stopped and looked at it this morning after we spoke, and it looks more like a stage now. The band can be in the gazebo, and people can look at it. I like the look of it.
It is very conducive to the summer concerts, especially when we have
Yeah.
performers that are do things interactively with the audience, which we try to have a lot of our performers do that, especially with the kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Ann. Okay. The next item focuses on it just says they're setting some criteria for the bench plaque. So I think, as most people know, the 4 new benches have been installed over by the gazebo, and one of the benches has been labeled with a family in town.
Collins, Helen and Stan
And
Collins.
there's also one with a recreation placard as well.
Yes.
So there's 2 benches that are unlabeled, so to speak, and they're not accounted for, so to speak. And Ann has talked to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen have sort of requested that we come up with criteria. They have made their own suggestions, and those criteria and ideas would ultimately be placed in
This brochure.
This brochure,
This
which goes
November
out November.
Yes. Right before Thanksgiving.
So it's essentially families or other groups that would like to pay for that bench would have the opportunity to do that, similar to the recreation of the Collins family. So I think what we're wondering tonight is,
And they would get a plaque in return.
yeah, what criteria would the commission like to see as critical to different organizations or families essentially owning those benches? And I know that Kevin had an idea by email that we didn't really talk about, but we'll sort of open that up for discussion now. People have ideas, because I think Ann obviously needs to put that in the brochure as soon as possible.
And if we don't have, I mean, we need to set criteria, because if we don't, then it could be, someone could,
Free-
it
yeah.
could be a business advertisement,
Right,
which I don't think people are leaning toward. But it could be the bench that's there. I just should, for Helen and Stan Collins, who lived in Norfolk for 50 years. So it says celebrating Helen and Stan Collins, in the 50 years. And then the Norfolk Recreation plaque says Norfolk Recreation supporting our community for over 50 years, since we were, which the Recreation Commission was established in 1961. So it's a little bit of, a little bit of history, longevity there.
Did the Board of Selectmen have any specific ideas or
No, only.
recommendations at all? Or
They, not to my recollection, only to be specific. I mean, that was, that was,
That's
they just,
important.
only to be specific. And if it's a memorial bench, I think one,
My idea would be, because I've given some great thought to this, and we've done a lot for public schools, dedicating certain people that have dedicated their lives to the Norfolk Public Schools. We've done a lot for the bricks. When we did the Old Town Hill, people could donate bricks that are printed around the gazebo for certain members and stuff. And we have pillow monuments around for veterans around our town at different points, like at Grove Street and such. What I think would be a good idea, and I'm only speaking for myself since there's 2 more benches open, is to dedicate it to one Norfolk police person and one Norfolk police firefighter, because everybody else has been taken care of as far as their dedication to the town of Norfolk. I think one person, it can be, there can be someone that can be back to H. Olive Day, some Norfolk police officer, some Norfolk firefighter. I think that would be appropriate. It is so close to the 911 memorial that I think that would be the most appropriate plaque for the bench, as far as putting that out there in a brochure. That's only my opinion. You guys can comment it if you'd like.
so I saw your email, and I was really thinking about it, as far as, because it's certainly a very nice, thought. I guess what came to my mind is, when it was voted on with the intention of being reimbursed for the benches, so it wasn't voted on as something that we would be giving, like the 2 benches. So I don't know how people feel about that, because it was not, so it just wasn't voted on in that capacity as donating the benches. So,
Right, because the benches were, at that point, a few months ago, you wanted to replace all the benches, and you wanted to have certain townspeople pay for those benches. Moving forward, just like as far as having the advisory board step in or the town and, step in and help with the tennis courts, I don't think this would be a very bad thing if we stepped away from having the benches paid for privately, because it sits on a town land. I think we should dedicate one of the benches to a Norfolk police man who's dedicated, it can go back 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, and a Norfolk firefighter. I understand that I myself didn't vote, but at the time we had this discussion a few months ago, you wanted to repair all the benches, and I was the person that spoke out and said, if we're going to do 2 benches, we're going to do 4 benches. So whether it's privately financed or publicly, townwide financed, I think it's appropriate. My own feeling that we should, no one else has spoken, that I think everybody else has, whether there have been teachers, veterans, private citizens on the walkway around Town Hill, I think that would be the appropriate use. That's only my feeling.
No, I certainly
So-
am not disagreeing with the fact that it's a very nice sentiment at all. That's not the point. It was just that they were bought under one premise, and so I think we might have to revisit that.
How much
And-
did that family pay for their bench?
Right around 1,300.
So how could you charge them, and would you have to give them their money back for the, how do you do that?
I have never, it's just not, I guess I'm just bringing up the fact that it was, the 4 benches were purchased with the idea that the Collins family was buying one, Norfolk Recreation would buy the other, and then the other two would be open for purchase. And it was never talked about that Recreation would be funding all 4 benches, or 3 of the 4 benches, or anything other than what we've done. So I just wanted to, because that's how it was voted, and that was what was discussed before, so, and that was what was presented to the selectmen. So changing it now, not sure what would need to be done. It's the only,
So that's
it's
one
a
thing
matter
we
of
need to address.
something that needs to be addressed.
Does anybody have any thoughts on Kevin's idea?
I like the idea, I just don't know how you're gonna change it, because,
Yeah.
again, that's an extra $2,700 that
Yeah.
we're paying it for, and Liza brings up the point, the
Yeah.
family's the only one that's paying for it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the also is how, what or do we, if we go with this, Kevin's idea, do we leave it up to the police and fire department to select that individual or individuals?
Well, that would go before the brochure, as far as people that have been in town a long time. It wouldn't be up to, it would go, I wouldn't,
I would
I
argue
should-
I would argue that, other than this, who I met 2 weeks ago, and Officer Plimpton, I don't know any other police officers. So I'm not sure if and maybe some of the townspeople are, and more that have been here longer, actually know more of the police and fire folks, but, we could certainly, I wonder, is there a way to add your idea as one of the suggestions? Is there a way, to add someone that's dedicated their life for public service as one of the potential criteria that could be added to the November criteria? As opposed to saying specifically it has to be for police and fire, that's maybe one of the many ideas we could come up with. So it still gets at what you would like the town to recognize, but it still stays within the confines of what we originally appropriated the funds for. But I think that's
I think that's great, because much like when the fire department has their open house,
yeah.
every town member gets a letter to donate to the fire fund.
Yeah.
So if it goes out into a brochure, however it is presented, it can be police person that's dedicated their life to the town of Norfolk, a firefighter that's dedicated their life, in the recreation brochure, right, that you are printing in November, right? And perhaps if there's a main swell of people that have lived in this town longer than all of us,
Yep.
right? And that have known the duties and functions that certain people have done,
Yep.
they might pony up those funds, or maybe the police
Oh,
or
yeah.
the fire department
Yeah, yeah.
may pony up those funds privately to recognize,
Right.
because myself, when I see the benches, and, I've said it once, I'm not going to say it again, but who else hasn't been recognized in this town?
Yep.
I mean, we have the selectmen, they have their plaques of their years of, who was elected in the town hall. And we have people that created, when this town hall was built, and all this current selectmen and stuff, but who else other than, I think, I apologize
No,
that,
there was
I'm
nothing to
sorry that
apologize.
when we voted for the benches, but we were voting for 2, and I was the one that brought up if we're going to do 2, let's do 4. And now I'm backtracking, but I think we still can privately finance
Yeah.
the benches.
I didn't understand that's
I
what
don't
you're
think
talking
you're
about.
backtracking. I
No,
think the
that's
way
different
that-
than what I
I think
understood.
the way that, I think there's a way that the criteria can be set, and I think you just said it. It could certainly be privately funded. If enough people decide that somebody that served for 50 years, that everybody knew, grew up knowing, is not memorialized, if they choose to pool those, get funds, and, I think that could be one of the many criteria we put in the flyer. And I think that would satisfy what you're after. And I think if we can craft it in a way that it's private funds, as opposed to we're asking police, or we're going to collectively identify that person, I think that.
But I want to apologize, because I haven't heard anyone spoke about, because when Ann sent the email as far as the selectmen and the criteria, does
Yeah.
anyone else have any ideas as far as who should, who should
No, I think-
sponsor the benches or whatever? Because
I mean, I think
it
obviously.
was a few months ago.
Yeah, I
So-
think somebody does anybody have spend any time thinking about it at all? or-
Well, I think everyone agreed that it was not for advertising purposes.
Yeah, so I think we can put that in the no call. I mean, would everybody agree that it would not be for a business to
Oh,
advertise?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Just making sure. Wasn't, all the heads weren't nodding.
So it could be, that was, Stan and Helen Collins were longtime residents of Norfolk.
I mean, I think something like, I think, so we should have police and,
Yep, service.
And I think
police and
somebody-
Fire.
Who lived in Norfolk, obviously.
I think, yes, it would be somebody that was a resident of the
Yeah.
town. That would be one as well.
As much as I love the Norfolk Police Department,
Careful, Tom.
and the fire department, the
Not sitting next to you.
EMTs and
Yeah.
police have responded to my house many times. I think it should be open to the town. If either the police or fire have someone, a Pacific they'd like to have the name on, Greg, let us know.
So I just have one question. So we talked about it be a resident of Norfolk, but if it was someone that with an extensive amount of years for service in Norfolk but didn't live in Norfolk, that would still qualify.
That's what I
Yes.
was gonna say,
So-
some significant contribution
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
to the town. And I guess, we have to be prepared if there's, and I suspect that there'll probably be
More than two.
more than two.
It'll have to get
And
voted.
it'll have to be discussed and voted.
That's why I think if we set the criteria, be specific and
Yeah. So we did say
it
significant
could be
contribution.
long,
And the significant, definition of significant, obviously, to you and I may be different, so.
and it could be spent, as far as a resident goes, a considerable percentage of their lifespan here.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what that percentage is.
Well,
I won't be
it could
at the
be,
Yeah, me neither.
I'm just,
What are you
I
getting
guess
at?
I'm saying that because there, people have spent their whole life here, even if it's 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
Versus 75 or more. But it's their life, and
Right.
versus someone who, and again, everyone's important, so it's hard to, but
So this
versus
is-
someone who may have only lived here a couple of years, although that person's very important to their family.
Right.
I think it's more the Norfolk connection that
Longevity,
people are looking
yeah,
for.
Looking for longevity.
That's what I seem to be hearing.
See, one problem I have as far as what you're saying is that then we're going to open that up to someone that may, a child that have died young. So are we going to, are the last two benches, because I wasn't aware that the second bench was bought by Norfolk Recreation, but are we going to leave the other two benches up to the highest bidder? Or are we,
No.
are we as a board going to vote for whoever, who we deem
We should be,
appropriate?
we would, it's the latter.
Yeah, no,
In my
there's no bid.
opinion, this should not be
It's not
out to
a-
bid. This
no,
is
it's not
not,
up to bid.
they would be
Okay.
asking to pay the same price that the Collins family paid.
A little bit more because it's, the Collins family had the plaque inserted at the time of manufacture.
Good point.
So it's
So,
another,
yeah,
it's
so
about
this is
$100
not,
more.
this is, my belief is this is not a money-making venture for us.
No.
Right, right. I
Is that-
just,
Is that your?
yeah, I
agreeing, or-
got
Okay.
the sense that,
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
I mean, if we want to open it up to everybody, then it's really our vote as far as who gets the last.
Yeah,
two
that's what I
plaques.
was saying, because, you know,
criteria?
it's entirely likely that more than one group or a group of people may want that bench.
Right.
Those two benches, and then we as a commission would have to decide, hopefully in a unanimous way, who that is.
And included in the criteria, you'd put subject to final approval by the Recreation
We
Commission.
need to put that in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
The other thing that we, you know, I
Just say it, it's okay.
I don't know how many people will be applying, but if we have a lot, one thing you might want to be considering is just when they apply. You know, it has to, you know, just, you don't have to use it, but you may want to put it, you know. if you-
Deadline, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
or just say, you know, it may be part of the consideration. So if you hear from, you know, two people right away, and then right at the very end, you hear
Yeah.
from a third person, it just may be something you want to consider. You don't have to
No,
consider
I
it.
think a
but-
deadline is not unreasonable.
Can I mention one thing? I think it would be a nice idea, in addition to the Norfolk brochure, because the people that get the Norfolk brochure are people that have, like, been in the Norfolk Recreation Department.
No,
older
everyone
people,
gets one.
Everyone. But I think if you, because I've seen you posted many times, if you could put a posting on Norfolk Net, like, when, at the time of the brochure, putting that out, that's even more.
I would send it to the papers, I'd put it on Facebook, our
Right.
Facebook page. I'd do all that. We were specifically asked to put it in the Norfolk Recreation brochure by the selectmen. So
Right.
that's what my goal is to, that's why I'm pushing for to get it in that brochure. But I absolutely would send it I would send it out.
Do we have criteria that are attractive thus far? I mean, this is pretty difficult.
It is. So, it's for a resident of Norfolk or a past resident of Norfolk. So it sounds like it's a memorial bench in some way. And that, or it could be someone in public service, we could specify a firefighter or police person
Yeah.
that has had significant.
First responder or something like that.
First responder, significant contribution that does not need to be a resident, but still have significant
Yeah.
contribution to work for Norfolk.
I think if you just put service member, I don't think you need to declare
Service
whether they're
member,
resident
okay.
or
Service member,
non-resident,
yeah.
'cause
Because that
Thank
that
you.
could be
Perfect.
military as well? That's a service member, so,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
no, definitely
yeah.
I
military.
always say that you don't need to exclude or highlight that they're non-resident.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Service member with extended service to Norfolk.
yeah.
But if they're, right, if they're doing service in Norfolk, I hope that they're being applied for because they've done extensive
Yeah.
service. Again, I don't think you need to
Okay.
include those words.
You'll send the final ones.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we ask for comments from our
In the gallery?
audience?
The gallery, sure. Any comments? So we have 4 benches on around the gazebo, and one is dedicated and was paid for by the Collins family, for Stan and Helen Collins. One was provided by Norfolk Recreation, and it says supporting Norfolk since 1961, that's when the commission was involved. So we have 2 others that can be memorial benches for a particular family if,
does he need a
or,
microphone, or does he need a microphone, or?
I don't know, we don't have a extra
No,
microphone.
because the
Well-
guy
I just
normally,
didn't hear- I just didn't hear what, I'm
Oh.
sorry, I don't know, but I didn't know what you,
Tom.
what the last person spoke. So,
So he just said, we don't need to say extended service, it would be service to Norfolk. So someone with service to Norfolk, or a longtime resident of Norfolk,
I didn't hear what you, how much the bench was.
They're right around $1,300. It would be about, I think about $1,350, $1,375. I'd have to look at the invoice and the price of the plaque.
So you'll need that as part of the brochure,
Yes,
the dollar amount.
yes, I will.
You've got that downstairs, probably.
Yeah, I do. I just don't know the exact price of the extra plaque, the addition of the plaque.
Okay, so do you need, I mean, I think if anyone has any other bright ideas on their ride home, you can certainly let Ann know, and will you?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up in the next few days, which I will say now, I actually have to be out for a couple days. I have to go to a funeral. But I will write something up and I will send it out. So for amendment, I'm not sending it out saying this is it. I'm
Okay.
sending it out saying, this is what I came up with. If you want me to, just feel free to critique or edit. It's fine. And take those edits and go from there.
Okay, thanks, Ann.
Okay.
CPC update?
I have a couple of updates. Do you want me to give these?
Go ahead.
So I'm going to skip around a little bit, I think. So first, the Rockwood Road Park, I had put that on the agenda because Kevin had specifically asked about the 2 trees that need replacing, and those are actually going to be replaced this week, maybe as soon as tomorrow. It sort of depends on the weather, I think, but those should be changed out this week. As
DPW is doing that?
nope, the contractor.
Contractor.
Yep,
Company that did them in the first place.
Sunshine, Bob, Sunshine Paving.
1 year.
Okay,
We also recently had the park fertilized and weed and feed. We took a credit. CPC took, when I say we, CPC took a credit for the two fertilizations. So we went out, and CPC will be paying for this. And Mike Heffernan, a resident of Norfolk, through his lawn maintenance company, did a weed and feed. So we closed the Gumps Park for about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. It was a beautiful day, liquid fertilizer. Once liquid dries, it's not transferable. It's one of the reasons we use it for small children. Sometimes granular can be better, but the liquid holds to the grass. They did it very early, and then we made sure it was dry before we opened the park again. We actually kept it closed for really until the end of that day. So he charged us, it was $175. But I will add that additionally, there's an area that's supposed to be grass, and there's not a lot of grass there. It's behind the flagpole. And it's kind of funny because it was all sprayed, everything was done all at the same time, but the area behind the flagpole doesn't have a lot of grass. Where inside, where there's more wear and everything, there's a lot more grass. He aerated and seeded that at no cost, so he donated that to the town. So I just wanted to mention that. He didn't charge CPC for it, didn't charge us for it, but he did do that for the town.
May I ask a question, Ken? Or-
sure.
Regarding the Fraser fir trees, I know they're being replaced, and that sounds good, but as far as certain dead branches all along, which I've noticed, I know the DPW maintains the grass, but who would cut the dead branches from the different Fraser fir trees? Because there's like 20 or 15 or whatever lined on both sides. Who would cut the dead branches? Because you can see them from 115. Who's-
That would be DPW.
Could you ask Bob McGee to have
Sure.
some people do that? Because nothing's, it hasn't, they maintain the grass, but I still, it's, I see it as, it's a jewel in the town, and the amount of money we spent, I know the trees are being replaced that were planted late November, but they also need to maintain the fir trees in addition to the lawn. As far as,
Right, they will,
as far
sure.
as,
They
I
just-
mean, it's been a year, so, I mean, they're out there, so everybody can see them, so
Okay.
that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me just make a note.
I wrote it down, too.
I just, so that's that's the update as far as CPC goes that I know of at the Rockwood Road facility.
All right. I did not make the last meeting. However, the meeting before, we had discussed the open space recreation plan. Cindy, I believe, signed a contract with Gino Calucci, and he was going to work up a survey to be, it would be a online survey and also paper survey. And at the last meeting, they looked it over and tweaked it. And I was told that it would be available for the fall town meeting.
I hope that includes a lot more of the recreation than the last open space and recreation plan that was done, but that was done in 1995 or 1996, I think.
I know Gino from the planning board. Do you know about, because I don't know anything about what you're speaking of, Tom. Is that regarding Rockwood Road, or is it regarding open space, or?
That's the CPC, it's another project the CPC is working on.
Okay, so could you tell the public what
It's
that's about?
townwide.
Right.
The open space recreation plan, we've had them in the past. If they're approved by the state, it makes the town eligible for our state funds.
Oh, I see.
The
So if we're
plan-
looking at other land or something, or
Yeah, whatever,
CPC land, or, you would know, right, Ann? or-
It wouldn't necessarily be CPC land, but I think the Lynn property was an example of what
Yeah,
was
Lynn
bought with
property.
funding that was available through grants because we had the open space and recreation plan.
I believe the Campbell Forest was also.
So it was some grant money that was available to the town because that plan was in place.
I see. So Gino's looking at other land possibilities in Norfolk?
No.
or-
He's going to do a plan and submit it to the state to have the town eligible to apply for grants.
Oh, I see. So is that something that we see, or is that something that the town, like,
It'll
Town
come before us.
it will come before us,
also.
or
Yes, it will,
it will?
yes.
Okay.
I wasn't, the last one was done in the 1990s, so, or mid-1990s.
Yeah, this survey will be based on the last survey.
Okay.
I guess.
So it's open space, like that free space in terms of the town of Norfolk, that land is available for
Yes, yeah.
recreation?
Right.
And so okay. So that makes sense to me. That sounds good.
It would actually go nicely with the master plan.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have.
Thanks, Tom, and
I just want to talk about the picnic, the town pond. I'll do town pond first. So we still have, I think it was 2006 or 2007, we applied to restore the town pond. It was a long process through conservation. But it was moving forward, and even up until, there was definitely some snags, but we don't need to go back through those. But the idea was to open up a walking path, and which we did. We had an Eagle Scout project, built a bridge, but unfortunately, I think it was a little over, well, it's probably more than a year ago now, we definitely noticed that the pond was becoming more stagnant. So the town pond is man-made, and it was man-made, and I'm thinking the 60s,
Yes.
by channeling a spring, which is right near the brook that goes by it, through a pipe system and a gate, a gate that you can open and close with a manhole cover. You open up a manhole cover, not with a manhole cover, sorry. You open up a manhole cover, there's a wheel you can put in, and you can open and close a gate. That pipe is no longer in one piece. It's actually in several pieces. So that all happened at some, it actually broke probably a year, maybe even a year and a half ago. So what that means is the town pond is still there. However, it doesn't have enough water going in it to provide a good oxygen levels to keep things as healthy as they once were. And I think that's how I first noticed, because I saw some oxygen levels that the CPC did, and I was like, that's really low. So DPW went and they tried to dig it open by hand, but they couldn't do it, so they brought in a small excavator and they tried to, find where the break was. This was after we had a pipe person come in and try to go through, with non-invasively, and they couldn't get through past 20 feet. But the pipe is in several pieces, so it doesn't really make sense moving forward with fishing platforms and such if you don't have a pond that supports fish. So I've talked to Janet in the conservation agent, and I'm going to get in touch with probably, I may email Dan Crafton for an idea to find someone that could go in and really redesign that gate, because we don't need the gate anymore. At one point, there was a gate to open and close Town Pond because it used to be dredged every year. If I remember what I've been told. I never saw it, but from what I was told. But that doesn't happen anymore. So a gate isn't needed, but some sort of channel, some way to channel the spring into the pond so there's better aeration is needed. So I'll be getting in touch with that and seeing if we need a notice of intent, if that's done, and hopefully we can possibly hire someone to do everything, not just, the paperwork is extensive when dealing with conservation. So either conservation's going to do it, they're actually the owner of that property. So either that or the engineer that, if we hire, if an engineer is chosen to hire, to be hired to fix it, we just have to kind of put some requests for quotes out and see what people come up with.
Because I think we've been talking about,
Long
certainly
time.
since I've been on and before I got on, when Karen was on, and it's sort of been fits and starts, and this could be a real decision point.
Yeah.
In terms of
I mean, at
whether
this
we go
point,
forward, and if so,
Right.
How much money is the town willing to spend?
well,
to-
there is money that Recreation had asked for to restore the pond. We didn't make that part of the project because when we started, that wasn't a problem.
Right.
And we've done some other work, not all the other work. There's no fishing platforms. We identified where the accessible parking should be, but we haven't built it. We didn't put in a fence. But I think we need to, one, either the pond needs to be fixed or we just need to walk away.
Yeah.
So, but I think to be,
I think we're at that decision
right,
point.
to be prudent, we have to get quotes to find out how much it costs to get fixed.
Exactly.
So that's what we'll be doing. I'm sure we won't have an answer soon, but,
Well, it's
yeah.
okay.
but I just
Anybody
want to
have-
let you know, that's where we are as far as CPC goes.
Anybody have questions at all? Or comments? Okay. Let's see, where are we? Ann, do you want to talk about kids, the NCTV space at the Freeman
I
Kennedy
just don't, the
School?
NCL picnic tables, it's just on here, just so you see, in the packet I gave you what they look like.
Okay,
So that's all that's there, so it has Norfolk Community League on the top, and they like that.
and it's, how many is it? How many tables?
Two.
Two, right? Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted you to see it, that's why.
These
it's
are
there.
for over at the Gumps
Yes.
Farms place area.
So
Thank you, NCTV.
Oh,
Thank you.
I know, I
NCL.
was looking at NCTV, I'm thinking.
So skipping down to NCTV, that, and this has just been discussed, but I just wanted to let you know that the space at the Freeman Kennedy School that is adjacent to the gym there's a SAC room, an after-school program room that we share with them. We have our morning programs there for our preschool, and we do our summer programs there, as well as other classrooms during the summer because they're available. There's some discussion that the NCTV space that is across the hall from that may be becoming vacated by NCTV next year. So we could really use more space. Right now, in order to use that space in the morning, we share with the SAC. Our kids are 3 feet tall, their kids are much taller. So we have different size tables, we have different size everything. So we have to go in, and I actually have to have an extra person go in just to help move the furniture back and forth. Like on Friday mornings, Jillian could usually just teach the class, but she can't go in. She doesn't have enough time to move all the furniture and everything to get the room ready. Our storage is, we don't even have everything over there that we used to have. We don't have any of our imaginative play items, and storage is cramped at best. I will say that, at best. So I've asked Jack Hathaway to talk to Ingrid and about voicing our need for additional space. Sharing space with SAC has been fine. I mean, it's been great. We've all are cooperating together, but having more space, they need more space as well. So, but we could also use more space, including storage space. And when SAC, the room that SAC is in, and that we use, the after-school program bought their own storage cabinets, so we may be able to do that for the other room, but I just wanted to let you know that that's up for discussion and moving forward.
So the room the NCTV room, the idea would be is to make that a shared space between SAC and
Yes.
recreation?
Yes.
And how big is that? Is it a big area that they have? I don't know.
It's about the same, I don't know the
Like a
exact.
classroom?
Yeah,
or-
it's maybe a little smaller.
Okay.
It's the same size as what's there.
So so with that, you would be allowed to basically have your furniture set up and not have to set it up each time?
Yes, hopefully, at least
That's the idea?
right.
That's your idea?
with a lot less time involved.
Okay.
We might have to do something, but hopefully with less time involved, so I don't have to have someone there just to do that.
Just to do that part?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jack has had that conversation or will be having it? Or do you know yet?
He will be having it.
Okay.
I think the subjects come up, but they haven't had a conversation about it.
Okay.
And the rec commission may need to write a letter and things like that, but I'll let you know.
Okay, we're happy to do that.
Okay.
I think we're happy to do that.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
yep.
We're all happy to do that.
Okay.
Kids Place deed.
Kevin had requested to see the kids' place deed, so I made a copy of that, and
Oh, okay.
so.
So it's owned by the town.
It is owned by the town. It's a very odd-shaped parcel of 2.8 acres. It's in a triangle, but more limiting is the leaching fields underneath it that extend all the way, really right along Boardman Street, so you can't build anything, on, because of that, unless you address that. So we've done some, looking to see if you could fit a multipurpose room or a multipurpose room, I'm sorry, multipurpose field, or, a wiffle ball field or a small field in there, and that could be done. We've also talked about a pitch and putt.
Pitch and putt.
The gentleman who, last January, I
Yes,
think.
he came to visit.
He came to visit us. We had talked about, doing something for sort of the middle years. Instead of little kids, teenagers and such.
So may I ask, does this fall under the purview of the Norfolk Recreation? Does this land, or
Well,
are we,
Says the town.
like, as far as, do we control the use, or does it have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen?
it
or-
would need to be approved by the Board of Selectmen
Okay.
because it is owned by the town. The
So-
Board of Selectmen have discussed it and have said that Recreation can come up with ideas for it. So they're open to Recreation using it, but because it is owned by the town, it is not under our control. We would have to have it approved
So
by the
it
Board
could
of
be
Selectmen.
used by any means of the town, right?
As far as I know.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, so.
There's just not, because of the leaching fields, not much can be built there. You can't have like.
Well, I
parking.
wasn't looking to expand it, but, I mean, it was a playground before, but the town could use it for any purpose. The Norfolk Recreation Department doesn't have control over Boardman Street.
Other than the selectmen saying that we could do something with it, that's correct.
Thank you.
Did you have ideas, Kevin, or you just wanted to know the facts?
Well,
of-
no, I had some past, when I started running for Recreation Commission, and I heard some from a previous, well, actually, a current Board of Selectmen that a friend of his had proposed some kind of courts there and stuff, and that had
Okay.
gotten shot down by Ann, but, no, I just was curious as far as, because since we've had Rockwood Road, Norfolk, this land is open, so
Yeah,
I kind of am, I don't know where the discussion starts. Does it start here, or does it start with the Board of Selectmen as far as, because the land's
Well, I think like-
open, and I think,
yeah. I think like Ann said, I mean, it sounds like there's been an agreement that, from the Board of Selectmen, that if we have a proposal of how to use that land, and I think there was a person that abutted that land that came
Yep.
maybe about 6 or 9 months ago and said he wanted it to be anything but a parking lot. That's all I remember him saying. And at that time, it was ideas from, we had talked about tennis courts, we had talked about a bunch of different courts for various different ages, and we didn't decide on anything, but we certainly heard the person that abutted it that, he was certainly willing to have it be a court of use by people that were not youths in terms of kids for a playground. So I think if you have ideas, bring them forward, because we've talked about everything from pickleball to all different kinds of things.
Scott
Should-
Dietrich
should
and I
we-
did go there and
Yeah,
look.
I was going to,
right.
that's what I thought.
He's the
yeah.
person that I
Right.
talked about.
That's what I
that,
thought. That's what I,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about pickleball and whether it would be at,
But should we be talking now about, planning for that open space, or is that something
think
years ago? I mean, because now that it's opened,
I think we
I think
should,
we should take advantage of it
Yeah.
and see what the Board of Selectmen says, right?
I think
Well-
you just need, if you come up with an idea, we
Yeah.
can,
I think it's the idea
yeah,
first.
come
We-
up with
we
the
need
idea, and then we
and
can figure
then-
that out, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
So everything else has been kind of tabled?
No, I don't think we haven't tabled anything.
Well, okay.
As I had said, Ann had, when, I think his name, it wasn't Chris, was it? I can't remember who it was, but whoever, he abutted that land and sort of was pleading that we think about what to put there. And at that meeting, we thought about a number of different ideas, and I think we left it there. So in terms of where it is now, it's exactly where it was 6 to 9 months ago. We want ideas, whether it be from us or whether it be from people we talk to, and we can discuss them, because I think the Board of Selectmen have already told us their intent is, if you have an idea, bring us your idea. So,
And the-
nothing, most importantly, nothing's been agreed upon, because we're sort of back to square one. We're looking for ideas, so.
Right.
The tricky part of that land is, one, the shape, but
Shape,
more
yeah.
because the leaching field covers, there's an old leaching field and a new leaching field all along Boardman Street in front. You can't build, you can't pave. So we looked at that land for tennis courts or pickleball courts, but you really, if we did, it would just, you wouldn't have the room. One, there's not enough room for even a tennis court. We had talked about a tennis court with a pickleball court. There's not enough room. And just doing one pickleball court is just sort of like in the middle, like, so it would negate anything else anywhere else. So we just thought, it just didn't seem to make sense without making it part of a plan for the whole facility rather than just doing something without thinking about everything else.
It's tough with the trees, it's so shady, and, 'cause when I was running, when I went to the senior center, they have open gardens there, but, like a community garden, but it wouldn't work, because unless you took down those trees in the back, there's no sun,
There's a community garden planned for Rockwood Road.
But there is one at the senior center, but as far as trying to get the seniors to walk in the senior center to like an open space or something, but it sounds like whatever is done there, it's gonna be a soft use of the area.
Yeah.
There's nothing,
Yeah, yeah.
unless the
It's
town.
limited, yeah.
It's very limited.
Right, so,
But I think we might have that as an agenda item in the next month or so, at the next meeting or the meeting after
Okay.
that. So. Okay. Programming?
Just wanted to let you know that's
Next
going
brochure.
well. We've, we tried a couple of new things before school sports, and that didn't get off the ground, but a lot of our other programs are doing very well. Our girls' volleyball is very successful this year. We have, I think, 46
Same
enrolled.
instructor?
Yep.
She's
But,
good. Yeah,
yep,
she's good.
but we had, which is terrific, and we've moved that to Freeman Kennedy because of
Oh,
the
okay.
risers have been up in the gym at HL Day School, and it really makes it not safe to, so that's at Freeman Kennedy, and we needed to buy another stanchion, but the revenue we've had coming in just for this current program easily pays for that. We just need we need to have 2 nets up. So, but everything's been going well. We're going to be moving on to the next brochure. We'll be coming out, asking for input now, keeping most of everything we have now, looking to add a couple more things, a couple different things, but that will come out in the beginning of November. The Santa Parade is December 7th, if I remember my Sundays correctly. It is Pearl Harbor Day. So we always try to have the brochure out before that, so the front cover is the Santa Parade. And that's all
Always
that's
a fun
about that.
time.
Yep, Norfolk Rentham Basketball, the registration is open. I did hear from Plainville that they may want to be part of it this year, but I think they were, Plainville, but I think they were thinking that maybe they would try to run their program, and if it didn't work, people could come to our program. But last year, we had 72 people from Plainville as it was, so I'm not sure what they had in mind. But I know Maureen's been Plainville's been running, they run a basketball program they have for a long time, but I think they're just looking for different options. So maybe if it's not in this year, maybe it's next year.
The fees are different if they're from Plainville, correct? Or if they're not from KP, or are they the same?
They're the same. Everyone's pretty much, we have a few people from out of town, non-KP towns, but we don't charge.
Okay.
There's not, fields we do, but not programming. We wouldn't really have, it would be hard to track with our software. I mean, you'd have to have two registrations, 2 programs open for every registration, non-resident and resident, for the very limited amount of dollars it would bring in. It would not be worth it.
Do you know what their basketball fee is?
Plainville's?
Yeah.
I don't, but I don't think it's like our program. I don't think it's a night and a day. I think it's less money, but I don't think
Okay.
it's like our program.
No, I'm just wondering if 70 is a fairly high number of kids, and I'm just wondering, is their program falling apart and I'm not saying it's falling apart, I'm wondering are the number of registrants decreasing for a reason? I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
don't know. I don't know how many they have in their program to begin with. So the coaches that are running the programs on Saturday for us this year are Jim McGonigal. He's the assistant varsity coach for the boys. He'll be at the high school with the boys' side on Saturdays, and the varsity coach, Marty Crowley, will be at the middle school with the girls, same as last year. So Marty is the same as last year. Jim's new.
Okay.
So, just moving on, right, in this order?
Yep, Red Sox tickets.
Red Sox tickets, they're putting it out, Red Sox have put out a call for Red Sox tickets already, so I just want to let you know that I have that as soon as, and usually the date to purchase is in December, but they sent an email out with a calendar saying that they may be moving it up. So if I get a notice that I have to call on a particular day, I need to call on a particular day. So we've sold Red Sox tickets for the past probably 5 or 6 years at least.
Yeah.
They all go. I'm actually looking, there's a, if I remember correctly, June 7th is Oakland and June 14th is Toronto. They're Saturday games. I try to pick a weekend, and I usually do the Coca-Cola Pavilion or some, people like that the most. So I'll probably do, depending how many I can get, 40 or 50 tickets.
Is that okay with everyone to go ahead and make that purchase? Because when Ann mentioned it to me, it sounded early.
But it's not really. It does sound early.
So, well, you
Guess
just
you
said it
probably
was
need
early.
to vote.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little earlier,
Yeah,
but it used
yeah.
to be December, so now it might be,
Well, now they already contacted you.
Right.
The World Series hasn't
Well,
even started yet.
So I guess you probably, because it is a vote, I would need to, I don't have a dollar amount because it depends on what's available. It's the same as every year, it's not anything different.
Okay, do you know what the price range is for the year, or last year,
Yeah,
approximately?
well, it's between $75 and $80 a ticket, so.
And you normally get how many tickets?
Well, last year, I've done 2 games the last couple of years, again, depending on availability. I have done the roof boxes, which are right around 55,
Just trying to get an approximate amount. For the-
and then
for the-
80, or again, depending on the game, 80 for the Coca-Cola Pavilion. So if we did 50 for the Coca-Cola Pavilion, that would be 4,000, and then up front.
Yeah.
And if we did, I wouldn't even, maybe 1,500, like 30 at $50 or $55, 25
The
for the,
5,500,
yeah.
6,000.
Probably around
I'm sure that-
6,000. I don't think
guess
I
the
would even do
prices
that
would
much.
go up,
Yeah,
right?
they've gone up, they have gone up. Again, it's a tiered system, I have it. It's depends on the game and the location. And
Okay.
it's all tiered, so,
Okay, so we need a nomination to allow Ann to purchase up to $6,000 worth
Yeah.
of Red Sox tickets for 2 games.
up to 2 games.
Up to 2 games for the upcoming 2014-2015 season, as she has done.
Just 2015.
No,
Season.
14-15. They start in 2014. No, 2015-16 season.
Yeah. They don't start this year.
They're already out this year.
It's next summer.
Yeah, next summer, as she has done in many years.
What was the dollar amount?
Up to 6,000.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Thank you, Ann. You have your ability to, hopefully you have good luck.
I know.
Surprised
You
they're not
never
giving
know.
them away. Should be giving
They
them away.
might be, I know.
2014-15 advertising expenditures. I think we had some requests, as we normally do for the TPA and Friends for their,
Well, and I didn't know if you could, sometimes I get the request with not enough time to have in time for your meeting to approve each one.
Yeah.
But we've done historically the Hall of Fame, we've done the TPA Friends brochure, we put an ad in for Norfolk Recreation and the Norfolk Rentham Youth Basketball. We've done, if we have a bingo, there's a bingo night, that's usually $25. I didn't know if you could say, okay, to repeat the usual advertisements that I've done. I mean, Hall of Fame is the most expensive, and I think that's $175. Friends is, we get a cover for $100, or an inside cover or inside page. It's a good location for $100. KP basketball, the because the KP varsity players support us, so we support them.
What's the amount usually for the year in terms of these advertisements you're talking about? Approximately.
It's not more than $500.
Okay, and that's for at least 1, 2, 3,
50.
at least.
200,
I know
300.
NCL usually asks for that. Is this separate
That
than
doesn't,
that?
that
That's
would be separate from the gala, because that's every other year, and we have a little more time for that one. But like the bingo nights come up quickly,
Yeah.
that, they're just it's really and those are typically $25. And they're not, we have maybe between 2 and 4 of those.
Right.
We do, we've done the bingo nights, we've done the preschools, and usually I have time for the preschools have a fair,
Yeah.
and again, it's basically advertising.
And these are certificates usually for.
Well, a couple of them are certificates, but the Hall of Fame, the TPA Friends book.
Those are
the-
ads for.
Right,
Norfolk
the KP basketball is the boys and
Is that enough?
girls.
What's the amount again? 500, you said?
It's not more than 500. Those are advertisements in the brochure, just saying we support.
Does anybody have questions for Ann about the ads, where they go, and these are things that since I've been on the commission, have remembered hearing, or never winning, but actually seeing as part of ads and things. I think it's a reasonable thing to continue to support unless people have disagreements
I
or
agree.
further discussion. So. Liza?
I agree.
Okay.
That's good.
So I think we need to vote to sort of give you the ability to purchase up to $500 in
Local organizations.
local organizations, either advertisement or certificates for recreation programs. Should we just say, and then these will all come up soon, right?
Yeah, they come up at very
Okay.
different times.
Okay.
The-
So
the-
what I want to know is, should we say it for the year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, between, like this, they're typically during the school year.
During the school year,
Yeah.
we'll just say. So up to $500 during this school year
Yeah.
for ads, recreational ads and gift certificates to support programs for recreation for the winners. We need a second.
I'll second it.
Why is a second?
Why is a
And
second?
All those in favor of?
Aye.
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 Aye. No opposed, so, okay, thank you. Okay, we have the field update fall plans.
Right, the field update, so I've looked at the fields, they're in pretty good shape. Field B, the soccer field is probably is the most tired, but that's to be expected because it's definitely the most used. And Field A is in good shape as far as grass goes. There are some leveling issues, and there's also some drainage issues on that field. So I'm going to get a price to do some overseeding, top dressing, and also, but deep tine aerating on both those fields. We need to determine where the turf covers are going to go. I think Field B probably warrants the turf covers. Field A, there might be a couple of gold mouse that need it, and that's at Pond Street. At Freeman Kennedy, I looked at the fields, Todd's looked at the fields. The fields are in pretty good shape. The football field looks better than I remember it looking in the mid to end of October, which is great. There's
Really?
yeah, it does. So they're clearly doing a good job about not practicing on it and so hopefully the goalposts that we purchased for them has helped them out with that. I mean, the football field's going to be thin in spots. It would be impossible for it not to be.
Definitely, yeah.
But I think we can just touch base with football a little bit later and see if they're noticing anything. But we had actually top dressed and seeded that fairly recently. So and the sod looks like it's holding up. We might need to do some work in the middle of that field. Field H It's doing pretty well. I mean, for a non-irrigated field this fall, for it to be green is a good thing. The side along the trees definitely dried out, like it was brown. But that's coming back with the rain, with all the rain we've had. We will be using a turf cover in the front of one of those goal mows. And I think that's it as far as the actual grass goes. I have attached, there are a couple of other things, though. I have attached to your paperwork and a proposal that baseball had, and they're asking to do the work. It's not that they're asking to pay for it. They have asked if possibly we could help them by taking down one of the batting cages that they want to replace at Pond Street. So I've attached the maps, and they've drawn little drawings. So one needs to come down, and I did talk to DPW, and they could take it down. It would depend a little bit on their based on their schedule. But, and we would have to, the metal that we took down, there's no charge to get rid of that. We would have to pay to get rid of the netting, and I don't know how much it weighs. I mean, it's basically based on weight. I'd be very surprised if it was more than $100 to get rid of it. Again, you set it, 70 feet of netting looks like it's not much when it's hanging up, but you take it down and it could be a lot. I don't even know the thickness of the net. I haven't gotten that far. So it's not any, other than the up to $100 to get rid of the netting, there aren't any other costs involved. So unless anyone objects.
So they want to, just to make sure the field the batting cage they're replacing they're putting a new one on Pond Street. And so
Yes.
they're really replacement and a new one.
Yes.
So it's really two batting cages.
Yes,
Okay.
And then-
they're paying for the batting cage.
yes, and adding another at Freeman Kennedy.
Right.
And yes, they're paying for them.
Batting is. So there's three.
Yes.
Okay. I think I said there were two. Okay. And they want to do this as soon as possible? Or did they say?
They didn't say,
I'm just thinking of DPW's, they got a lot going on.
yeah, no, I think I would get back to baseball and say DPW could take it down, but would depend on their schedule. I don't think, having netting up during the winter, it's not necessary, so I think maybe if it came down, or they could put the metal frame up for one to have it ready early spring, they could do that on the ones that they're adding.
Yeah.
They can do it in stages.
No,
but
I'm
I
just
don't
being
think- yeah.
sensitive at DPW's time.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't, I'm not committing DPW
Yeah.
to do it, but in a time frame,
Yeah.
just sometime this winter.
Discussion?
So
anyone?
Field 12, where they want to add one, how would that impact Field E?
It's outside. Field E at Freeman Kennedy? Oh,
Yeah,
Pond
you-
Street.
other
oh,
page.
sorry,
Yeah.
there's two. So, it's, this drawing isn't a great drawing. This is actually a straight
I
line.
know it's not a great drawing, but I know the layout as well, so I'm just trying to think.
It's on the outside.
Is that close to the track?
Because you have the field, which comes down with the line right there to the fence. And you have the walking path.
Walking
They're going to put
path.
on the walking path?
Yeah, that's close to the walking
There's
path.
actually a fair amount of space between,
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I'm thinking the fence
I wish we had the
for the
picture
second
here.
base, for the,
There is. Yeah, there's,
oh, there's a lot there?
between the,
There is probably enough
Yeah.
for that,
Well, the-
you
well,
know,
the
with
st-
batting.
I mean, we wouldn't let them do it if it impacted the walking track.
You're,
Or the-
which,
There's a
hold
shed
on,
there,
which one are you,
too, where the
are you
porta
talking
potties
here?
are down there, isn't it?
Which one?
The one, yeah, at the bottom,
This
Oh.
one?
on the left.
There's a
Oh,
porta
okay.
potty down
Okay, this one, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because they're going to put it one of two locations, either on the left side or the right side, so I guess it would depend on which
Right.
side does not
Would
impact.
fit.
Yeah.
Because 70
This
70
is-
feet is no small
That's a
small
lot.
structure.
No, this is, so this is more like here. It couldn't go here. It would have to be,
Yeah.
it would be here.
We need to go look at it
Yeah.
because,
There is a fair amount of width between here and the walking path. You come around this corner and like there's bleachers here and there is still room. But I haven't measured it out for 70 feet.
yeah, we need
But
to-
there is some space there. So I think we'd have to go, we'd
I'm just saying, if they put it on the left side, it goes into the outfield or whatever along the other side. And that'll possibly impact the way the layout of the fields are for soccer, if it's there.
Yeah. I think we just have to look at it.
we'll look at it.
Okay.
This one is the old one, okay, that's fine.
I actually think he's thinking that it's, I'll have to go look. I don't, without a map in front of me, it's
Yeah,
too hard. I don't want to remember. But I could have them mark it out with paint if you want to go look at it.
That's fine.
That might be the next step.
Okay. I can do that.
And I think if anybody wants to go on the field trip, they're certainly more than welcome to go.
Sure. No problem.
Okay, so Commission Secretary position request. So I
Hold on,
think,
there was just one other thing. I did receive a complaint last week about parking. I actually received it from the softball group regarding football, Friday night at Freeman Kennedy. I actually was working Friday night, I was going to volleyball, so I did go over, there were 7 cars parked inside the access road, like in the shed area. So I did just email Jim Carroll, he's great, he's the president of football, and just asked him to pay attention to that.
is that the first complaint?
The
This
first
year?
written complaint, yes.
It was written, okay.
Yes, it was a written complaint, and it was about the speed and the need, questioning the need. People were pulling in, seemed to be just dropping people off and leaving.
Okay,
So I just
okay,
wanted to let you know about that.
okay.
And then the other issue that I'm going to be addressing is the care of the softball and baseball infields. There seem to, and this has been mentioned back and forth a little bit, but we have standing holes. We just did all that work on the softball field, and there are holes, because when people use it, they're not being raked out. So I have a list of how to care for a field afterwards, and I'll be sending that to softball and baseball.
So baseball is the same people that requested the,
Yes.
okay, and softball it wouldn't be the same group that had to pay for the fields, or is it different?
No, this is really girls softball.
Oh, I don't know. You
Yeah,
didn't-
no,
You didn't specify, so I don't
no,
know, so. Okay. So these are all the fields we did work,
Yeah,
that
I'm
we had
actually, right,
extensive
and
work on.
it's girls softball because I'm really talking about the fields that we did all the work on.
Okay,
And we didn't do work on that, on the large field.
okay,
Other than DPW doing the work.
okay. So you'll just communicate with them by email or?
I will, but that brings up a good point, and maybe we should have something in place for the spring allocation.
I think that
Hadn't
would be
thought about
very,
that.
I think it would be very
policy?
useful to have that.
Yeah,
'Cause I think for anybody that doesn't know, obviously and Todd did all the calculations in terms of, this was part of the master plan, I think, that many people contributed to in terms of improving the condition of the fields, and a considerable amount of time and recreation, i.e. your money, went into improving how the fields look and the playability of the surfaces for kids, and obviously one of the goals is to keep the fields in the condition that they are, and that requires everybody's help.
I will add, I mean, just so people recognize, I don't think anyone's not doing something they know that they're supposed to be doing.
Oh, no, I wasn't.
You're right, I just don't want anyone to think that. I mean,
just not-
especially,
yeah.
the softball field has literally been the recess field for the last 2 years. They've had, and it could still be used by the school and such, so it may not even be softball that's making all of the divots and such. Probably some, but I think we just need to come up with a plan. And baseball certainly isn't using the fields in the fall, so, but we still need to come up with a plan. And I think having something for the spring allocation is probably a good
Like,
goal.
I guess I have my own field update. I was passing, it's been a couple of times now, that field out at Freeman Kennedy that was recently seeded and now has got the fence there.
The
There's been-
recess field.
Yeah, it's been a couple of times where there's been several, at least 4 different dogs, all sort of, with 2 owners, but the dogs had leashes on them, they just didn't have an owner with the leash. And the dogs they were playing as dogs do, and and I know kids use that field for recess. I mean, apparently they can use that for recess, and
They do use that field
So I'm
for
just,
recess.
and I don't know whether anything was left out there that should not have been left out there. It's just, it's a bit,
It's an ongoing problem
Yeah,
we've
so-
had for a long time. We don't have a policy that, well, we certainly have a leash law policy, and they're supposed to be cleaning up after their
Well,
pets.
they had
so-
leashes on, like I said.
Yeah. But we have had a lot of issues with dogs not being picked up after on fields. I even had, this summer, there was dog poop, but literally on the Port and Place playground, the new playground.
Okay.
We went out to use the playground, 5-year-olds, and our counselor had to pick up after a dog on the Port and Place playground. So if someone's,
It's just something to
Yeah,
keep an eye on.
it's-
So.
we have signs, and we have signs at the new Rockwood Road that very clear on every single gate, no dogs inside fenced area other than service animals.
There's no signs at Freeman,
Is there
though.
one at Freeman?
There's dogs up
They're
there
d-
all the time.
Yeah, there are signs that say there's a leash law and you have to clean up after your pet, but that's the law. That's, but it's been going on for a long time, on baseball fields. We actually have a sign on one of the fields, no dogs, because it's a closed area. They go inside, they run.
It's perfect, yeah.
I've been at Pond Street the year that we put the turf covers down. I had someone, very nice gentleman, lovely dog. I love dogs. Said, "Oh, my dog probably won't go on it." And sure enough, the dog turned around and right across the turf cover. I was like, "Ooh."
Okay.
So,
So the commission secretary position, as people can see, oh, you're not feverishly writing.
I caught up.
Okay. As evidenced by Todd feverishly writing. I think a number of the other boards and commissions have
I
secretaries.
think all of them do.
All of them do, and one of the things that I've served as secretary, I know Todd has, and Karen before has, and many people have had that role, and it's quite frankly, it's not an easy one to do, because you're trying to listen and contribute while at the same time writing down details that are clear enough that if people have questions.
I think you might be confused as to what she's probably asking for.
No. But
Aren't you looking for more help office-wise, or doing
Nope.
follow-up, email? This? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm confused, I'm sorry.
No, but
But
part
go ahead.
here, but also in preparing the agenda, into being in accordance with the open meeting laws,
Uh-huh.
to have everything in order and ready to go. I think that you should have a secretary, and I think that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Ken, because every other town board has a recording secretary. Shouldn't be on any other recreation member. They need to listen and add
Contribute,
input
yeah,
and
contribute,
make
yeah.
sense.
And it would be, what are we talking about in terms of the burden terms of
You
financially?
would need to ask the,
How do we go about that?
start with Jack Hathaway and then go to the selectmen. It would need to be a budgeted position. We don't have money to pay for it.
Okay.
So we don't have, Recreation doesn't have a budget, other than I mean, it could be added, I guess, added to our salary expense, but it would have to be, so it would have to be budgeted for that. You could estimate how many hours. I mean, you usually meet once a month, sometimes it's twice a month. Might get more complicated for a field allocation. They could also do some of the field allocation work, the Excel spreadsheets and such. So if you calculated the hours that are spent doing this, but also preparing the agenda, making copies of everything, which is probably just preparing for the meeting is easily 2 or 3 hours, easily, in addition to being at the meeting and doing the minutes, following up, making sure the minutes are, think about how many times the emails go back and forth with the corrections.
So does Katie O'Brien, does she prepare the minutes now, or the agenda, or
Kathy
Yeah.
O'Brien.
Kathy, whether, or,
No.
no, she doesn't do that? You do, or?
I do.
You do?
I just put
Yeah.
out an email saying what's, you tell me what's
No, I
on the
mean,
agenda.
but this stuff here that's.
I do it,
You do
Ken
that?
does that.
Okay, so,
and I don't want to
so is this like a warrant, I mean, it's not a warrant article, but how does, like, this differ from the tennis court issue, as far as getting a budgeted position? I don't think this will be any
Well, it's an on.
short-term,
No.
this won't happen
No, it-
anytime
right.
soon.
It's not a one-time, it's you would need to talk to the selectmen about adding a position. And it's approximately, the pay, I think it starts a minimum about 15, but you'll probably be paying about $20 an hour.
So would you or Ken go before the board, or?
You would.
It's okay. I mean, I think if
It's the- it's the-
everyone here is supportive of proposing to, initially speaking with Jack and then proposing to the Board of Selectmen a posted position for a secretary of this commission, then I'll work with Ann to figure out the required hours for that position, and then we'll write up a proposal for the Board of Selectmen and for Jack.
Absolutely,
I think that.
Every other
I mean,
board
we've
has
just
it,
got to go
so-
through the right process.
right?
And
No, I agree.
I would need from
Yeah.
Ann what the numbers look like, so.
Well, I think as far as some of the work, I mean, doing taking the notes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
doing, that's the part you need to figure out. This isn't, I mean, it does take a amount of time, but that's probably more of it.
Yeah.
But also keeping everything on file and making copies of all the documents and things like that.
Right, okay. So, is that something we need to vote on? I'm not sure if we need to vote on that.
We're not spending money, are
Yeah,
we?
we're not spending money, but what I'd like to do is.
If you
what-
could ask if everyone's in
Yeah,
agreement.
so if seems to be in agreement. What I'd like to do is, at some point, down with you and sort of figure out the monetary piece, so folks have kind of an idea of what we're asking for in terms of hours, just so people think it's reasonable, that we're not asking for anything unreasonable in terms
Yes.
of the time commitment.
This is,
But it does make sense. I mean, I
the
think
planning
it-
board's much longer than this.
Yeah.
We meet. I mean,
Yeah, but
they go into midnight.
Right.
And they have a recording secretary
Right.
in the Board of Health or whatever, in the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Yeah, They do a lot
And,
more.
and the Conservation Commission.
Right.
We pretty much stick,
Yeah. And I think.
I don't think it's unreasonable. and-
No, I mean, I think for us, it also would help turn around the meeting minutes quicker, and we would have things captured much more succinctly. You're good, me not so good.
Me worse.
So I think we've had our first televised meeting. I think it's actually, I think we've all not paid attention to any, because we can't see that we're on film. But I think unless members feel differently or would like to discuss it more, I think it would be a reasonable thing to continue having the meetings televised, so folks can actually see the business that we're trying to do on their behalf.
It's fine with me.
Yes.
Yep, oh, yes.
I don't mind it.
Excellent. So, let's see, we have Oh, also, Anne included here a very important reminder for the town meeting, which is November 18th. So I'm sure there'll be a number of things. The warrant should be coming in the mail soon, right?
I think so.
If they haven't, I haven't received it yet, so I'm sure it'll be coming
And I'll be
soon.
there to vote for the,
Yes.
transfer the money, the
Transfer the
cash.
money, so.
you may want to think about preparing something, a short statement we
Yeah,
could put out on
I'll
a
do that.
table.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Well, you want to set a next
Yeah.
meeting?
So we need to set a next recreation meeting, and if anybody has a calendar, oh, Ann does, so.
So the next 4 weeks from today is the 17th, which is the night before the town meeting. And I would say you might want to meet in 3 weeks, but that's the 10th, which is the day before Veterans Day. So I don't know if, I think that might be a non-school day.
Probably.
So that makes it hard for kids to meet. You don't have to meet on a Monday. Although we would have to make sure the room is available for taping.
So that would maybe be on this.
You could also meet on the 24th if you wanted to do that, and I could, if we needed vouchers signed, because we probably would. Going 5 weeks is hard to go without vouchers being signed, but many other boards actually come in, they sign vouchers at other times, so I could even have them at town meeting if people were around to sign them.
That's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, what, is
Oh, that's-
Thanksgiving the 20th?
No.
No,
Or
it's the
the
27th.
Again this year.
27th.
Is November 10th good with everybody?
Pardon me?
Is November 10th good
November
with
10th's
everybody?
good with me.
It's fine.
Yeah.
November 10th?
Fine with me.
If it's a no school day, I'm not sure.
Bring your kids. I don't know if it is or not.
Shoot for it.
I,
I don't know.
Is that a Monday?
Yeah.
it is a Monday. I don't have the school calendar with me. I think sometimes they have that day off. Sometimes if they have a holiday on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
they add an extra day. I don't know.
They have the Columbus Day, they have the Teachers' Day on Tuesday.
Had a
so-
Tuesday, yeah.
They always do that.
Long weekend.
Yeah,
So we'll go with November 10th for now.
okay.
That's good.
And we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.